The crew of the Huckalau radioed for help just before 8 o'clock this morning. Travelling from Sydney to the Gold Coast, the boat they'd bought 1 month earlier let them down. The steering broke, leaving them stranded 13 kilometres off the coast of Cape Hawke.
Weather was getting very bad, so the case we just get on the radio and yell out for help.
Experienced sailors, Gold Coast boat owner Adrian Guest and his partners from Sydney tried to rig a sea anchor to stop them drifting further east while they waited for the police. When the police arrived 1 hour later, the crew had prepared for the worst. Life jackets and raft on standby.
It was blowing up and getting worse, and we'd got the weather report and they said the winds are going to be 35 knots and, up to 5 metre waves. So we were quite happy when we saw the police boat.
The men are hoping to repair the steering problem themselves. Meanwhile, the police are pleased the new Shark Cat passed the ocean test. It replaces the former 20-year-old police vessel.
A lot more efficient. We wouldn't have gone out in the old boat, I don't think. Or if we did, we would have found the conditions very, very hard.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
The American team of Soers, Bloomquist, Schwartz and Francis is full of confidence after Tuesday night's win in the first round of the test. But there's been a reshuffle in the Australian side with Ron Pine replacing Stu Robertson, whose car was plagued with fuel line problems in the closely contested first round racing. The tried and true team of John Pine, Don McEwen, Bob Brewer and Ron Pine, who beat the Yanks in last year's series, will be back on the track again. There was no love lost between the sides last time they met, and the race officials are anticipating a grudge match at the Newcastle Motordrome tonight.
October started disastrously for Wayne Russell as Mount Panorama claimed yet another victim. Better luck for Paul Perry as Navy SEAL got a late run in the Epsom and stunned everyone. West Tony Price signed with the Sydney Tigers, while a tug-of-war between Newcastle and Canberra developed over the services of Australian schoolboy Owen Craigie. Disappointment for the Falcons as Derek Rucker moves to Townsville, while captain Terry Dozier signs to play in Israel. Guy Andrews returns home to win Newcastle's inaugural Uncle Toby's Ironman event. Anne-Marie Putney's strikes took her to the top of Australian 10-pin bowling, while the Sydney Blues struck out against our Eagles in their opening game in the ABL. To November, and Newcastle lost the state one-day final at the SCG, while New South Wales gave the Poms a pasting at Newcastle's #1 sports ground. Michael Guest lost all chance of winning the Australian Rally Championship with a disappointing result in the Asander, while Scone's multi-million-dollar racecourse facility was officially opened. To December, and the Falcons signed Butch Hayes, and the Knights retained Matthew Johns till the end of 1997. Victorian Ewan Walters won the Futures Championship at Newcastle Golf Club, while Ultrajet set a new world record in the Newcastle Pacers Cup. John Fay gave the Knights an early Christmas present, wiping their $2.3 million debt. Trudy Musgrave gained a wildcard entry into next month's Australian Open, and Avoca's Shane Powell won the Coke Surf Classic in Sydney.
It's that time of year again when most of us think of days past, the good, the bad and the unforgettable.
Fun, good. I got a job, so it was good.
Oh, sickness-wise, health-wise I had a bad year, but I'm coming good now.
That average?
Nothing exciting happened to you?
No, not really.
Preparations are already underway to see the new year in. A huge concert has been planned for the foreshore, where the brewery is expecting crowds of up to 4,000. The fireworks display on the harbour starting at 9 p.m. will be a major drawcard, but some have made other plans.
Staying home, families coming in.
Newcastle's taxi drivers are bracing themselves.
They'll just be busy all night. We won't be able to handle it. That's what'll happen.
Pubs and hotels are preparing for the masses. In Merriweather, across from the Beaches Hotel, Council has installed a protective barrier for revellers. There's less than 30 hours until we bid farewell to 1994 and make those yearly resolutions.
Make more money. That's basically it, make more money.
Most probably when I'm intoxicated, I'll make many.
No, I'm getting too old for resolutions, so I don't make them anymore.
Gosford Golf Course provided ideal conditions for the second and final day of its $20,000 Pro-Am. Overnight leader Andrew Bruns was consistent rather than sensational, but was still 3 under after the first 9. Sydney's Robert Willis tried to keep up with the Canberra leader, but had dropped to 1 under after the outward 9, failing to master the Gosford greens. Newcastle's David Van Rolt was tied for second going into the final round. He struggled early but fought back on the second 9. Bruns stumbled to leave a 3-way tie with 4 holes to go, Willis and Van Rolt joining him at 1 under. Bruns shot a birdie to go 2 under, but an eagle on the last by Robert Willis has the Sydney sider in front, with Bruns needing a birdie on the last to tie.
A very blunt statement by the Paul Perry train gelding. It paid $16 and $3.80. The trifecta $1,238 even. Meantime, further success for Newcastle and Max Lees with smart 2-year-old Zephyrus, which was having its second start. It started a 9-4 favourite and scored by 2 3/4 lengths. 60-1 chance Arbadilla second with Unzipped third. For many in the greyhound industry, it was their first trip to Beaumont Park in some time. The boycott over a reduction in prize money into its 3rd month. They were there to vote on a Greyhound Control Board recommendation to return to racing for $6,600 a meeting, which according to the committee of the concerned owners and trainers was unacceptable.
Well, hopefully that there be a no vote carried.
To ensure this, the committee handed out how to vote no leaflets and voiced their disapproval at the use of a secret ballot to decide the issue.
We feel that people should stand up and be counted. A show of hands was very, very firm at the meetings prior to this at Hexham Bowling Club, and we still reiterate that that's the way to go.
Well, the board just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to come along, vote in private, cast their vote in secret, and see if we could resolve it then, or at least get an indication as to what the feeling was.
After 3 hours, 368 people had voted. The Electoral Commission given the task of conducting the poll and announcing the result. The concerned owners and trainers will meet later this week and will hold discussions with the Minister for Sport on January the 10th. But many were angered by the result and will ignore the threat of reprisals and nominate their dogs for future meetings.
Well, that's up to every individual. I can't say don't nominate or nominate. That's not up to me to say so.
The Newcastle Jockey Club's Board of Directors met at Broadmeadow this afternoon. They called off this Saturday's meeting, but intend on racing on Saturday week.
I must stress we would need at least 10 races, otherwise you could effectively say Beaumont Park is finished. But in view of today's vote, you'd be very surprised if we couldn't get a fair share of nominations for at least 10 races.
Ridden by Craig Carmody, Dan Gambin got the nod at 33-1. Golden Step was second while Usolt was third. Meantime, racing was also in Newcastle this afternoon. Here's John McDermott's call of the first leg of the extra double. Another win for jockey Alan Robinson with Star Mace at short odds beating Spectacular Ruler and Sharbeen.
Conditions today are very different to those of 12 months ago. Soaring temperatures and 40-knot winds were fanning life into the January bushfire emergency. A frantic fortnight of fires in the Hunter. In January 1994, the ferocity of the fires took most people by surprise. Flames jumped main roads, cutting off Newcastle, and a large blaze to the west of the city exploded into a corridor of fire, which nearly reached the coast.
It's 2 weeks that I won't forget for quite some time. It became a job that went for many hours over a long period of time, and it was very draining physically and mentally. At the peak of the afternoon's fire activity, the communications room were taking in the vicinity of 100 to 130 000 calls an hour, which is an extraordinary amount.
In the first battle with the flames, 8 houses and buildings were lost. 800 firefighters took to the front lines around Newcastle, while hundreds of Victorian reinforcements moved into the Port Stephens area. The pace at fire headquarters in Newcastle today was so different, yet the lessons learnt a year ago have led to the implementation of better equipment, improved communication networks, staffing levels and even legislation regarding homes in high-risk areas.
I think one of the things that's come out of this is there's been a greater public awareness of the damage that bushfires can do. This rain that's out there today is very nice to see compared with 12 months ago, but if we don't get large follow-up rains, this will just promote new growth, and towards the end of the summer period, when the weather dries out a bit more in February and late March, we could see some very serious fire conditions developing again.
It was a rare sight. Greyhounds at Beaumont Park. The last meeting at the venue was on October 29. But if owner Gary Newman has his way, He'll be one of a number nominating for next Saturday week's meeting.
We strongly believe, and so do quite a few people into the industry, that we have a right to race.
That confidence has come from yesterday's poll, which indicated 179 people wanted to return to racing. It also emanated from the frustration of the continuing stalemate, which has financially hurt many in the industry.
There is no immediate resolution unless we get back and race, and both sides can sit down and sort our problems out. Nothing is going to be achieved by not racing here.
By doing so, he's hoping negotiations with the Newcastle Jockey Club will continue and at the same time save Beaumont Park. And judging by the response he's received, it seems many agree.
The number of phone calls that I personally have received in the last 24 hours suggests that the Jockey Club should not have any problems in achieving a full program when they next call for nominations.
The Concerned Owners and Trainers Committee would not comment on the matter this afternoon, stating it would discuss the situation at its meeting this Sunday.
Great Lakes Tourism Manager Don Myatt, who has been in the job for 3 months, says the Christmas and New Year influx has prompted reorganisation of the Foster Centre. 5,000 tourists have passed through the centre over the past 2 weeks, inquiring about the area's natural attractions and seeking advice about accommodation.
Stage 2 of our central booking service will be the introduction of a booking service for accommodation.
Targeting motels and caravan parks, the booking service will bring the Great Lakes into line with other coastal tourist destinations. Other projects to be undertaken this year include the publicising of major events and the printing of a visitor's guide. Mr Myatt says Great Lakes Tourist Information Services will cater for consumers seeking tailor-made holiday packages.
Anybody wishing to come to the Great Lakes area for a holiday, they can have a one-stop shop. They can get their accommodation confirmed, they can book their tours and cruises and have a happy holiday.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
Lake Macquarie's Environfest is a good example of what Council wants to see more of. Each year it's sponsored by a corporation, easing the cost to the community and giving the sponsor valuable coverage. In future, carols by candlelight could be done the same way, or the city's Australia Day Festival, and then there are the community facilities.
Where people go is places like the art gallery and the libraries. We see that as an important source of revenue for corporate sector.
Sally Williams is Council's Corporate Sponsorship Officer. It's her job to find the sponsors, and she says there have been numerous approaches from business. The scheme is already working in at least 2 other areas of the state, made possible by changes to the Local Government Act.
The Local Government Act for 1993 has really changed the face of councils in terms of how they account to the community and also in terms of their entrepreneurial ability, their ability to raise funds from a wider range of sources than perhaps they've previously had access to.
It's the third year the national titles have been held at Wingham. Decorations are going up in readiness for the competition, which begins tomorrow night.
Wingham is regarded probably as the rodeo capital on the East Coast. The venue here is just superb.
Glenn Morgan, 7 times national all-round champion, will be the rodeo announcer. He predicts last year's crowd attendance of 12,000 will be topped over the 3 days of competition. Mr Morgan tips Bulladila bull rider Matthew Bogey will be tough to beat in the finals, but he's certain a cowboy from Scone will make his mark on the weekend.
I think one of the veterans in the bareback bronc riding, Greg Gibson, could secure his 7th national bareback riding title, which would be a new Australian record. He's been a former world champion back in 1987 in the United States, and I know he's at the end of his career, and there'd be no way better to go out than to win the national title here at Wingham.
The finals will be held from midday on Sunday. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
It was a welcome sight at Broadmeadow this morning. Navy SEAL back at work after an uncertain few months. Last year, the 5-year-old stunned the racing world, winning the time-honoured Epsom Handicap as the first emergency. Despair followed for trainer Paul Perry and connections. Navy SEAL's racing career in doubt after it broke down in the Caulfield Cup. Navy SEAL tore his suspensory ligament, but has responded to treatment much better than was expected.
At the moment he's come back beautiful and his leg looks good, and he's probably been in work about 3 weeks, and you know he hasn't had the pressure of work yet, but he looks great at the moment.
Navy SEAL's work has been restricted to swimming and light track work, connections resisting several tempting offers to retire the horse to stud. Instead, they're now chasing Australia's other premier mile event at Randwick.
The main race for him is the Doncaster, and he'll probably start racing towards the end or early February, end of January, early February, and just running the traditional lead-up races to the Doncaster.
Meantime, the star performer in Perry's stable at the moment is 4-year-old Mansell Bay. It'll be chasing its 6th consecutive win in the William Inglis and Son Flying Welter at Randwick tomorrow.
Hundreds of megalitres of effluent are pumped out to sea every day from the region's 3 sewage outfalls. It's a lot cleaner than the discharges off Sydney's beaches, with secondary treatment at the Belmont, Boulder Bay and Burwood plants. But the EPA says this means thousands of megalitres of usable water is being wasted.
The higher the quality of effluent, the more potential there is to reuse it, and the crazier it is to throw it out.
Hunter Water says its rates would double if all effluent was recycled and reused. It says the use of treated effluent is rising, but there is a limit to how much can be harnessed.
We're very much in favour of recycling. About 10% of our effluent is recycled now. That'll go to 16 or 17% with a couple of new plants that we're commissioning at the moment.
The EPA says that figure can be improved dramatically, although it concedes it'll take at least a generation to fully exploit the region's effluent. A greater concern is the discharge of waste into the Hunter River. Most of it has had minimal treatment and is released into small streams that can't handle the nutrient overload.
Those slugs of nutrients go out into further down the tributary or into the major stream and can give rise to algal blooms and other problems, which then have an impact not only on human activities but also on the aquatic ecosystem.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The developers of Pinny Beach and Lake Macquarie Council are at it again. They already have 3 lawsuits in the Land and Environment Court, and the parties are now accusing each other of trespassing and theft.
We've decided that unless the signs are returned to the council by noon tomorrow, that we'll be contacting the police because the signs are the council's property.
But developer Greg Moylan says he had every right to remove the signs, as council allegedly trespassed when it erected them on the residential development. He says the signs, which indicated the Spoon Rocks Road was temporary, were misleading because the road will remain well after the main access route to the Pacific Highway is built.
Well, the council believes it has a responsibility to inform the public that part of Spoon Rocks Road is a temporary road, will be a temporary road on registration of the plan.
High noon will come for Mr Moylan tomorrow. Council says if the signs aren't returned by 12 o'clock, it will report the matter to police. Mr Moylan says he'll take council to court for trespassing if any charges are laid against him. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.